Now, something that I glossed over that I want to return to is in finding the minimum and maximum date, I simply accessed the date column. If you remember from when we previously inspected our data in the console, the date column is actually a string representation. In order to ensure that when we're comparing dates to find the minimum and maximum, that the comparison actually returns the correct date. For strings, there may be some ambiguity in what's greater or less when referring to a date, so to be safe, you should always work with a JavaScript date object itself. To do so, we can either use D3's built-in date parsers, which I'll show you in just a second, inline in the functions which we need to do any sort of comparison, or since we will most likely always need the date column to be a date object, we can parse it as we load in the data. Scrolling to the bottom of the page here, we're going to revisit the D3 tab separated value file loading function, in this case D3.tsv, and previously we loaded our data file. In this case, again, remember it's not simply the World Cup dataset, but it has geographic enhancements to it, the latitude, the longitude, and the home team, which once it's loaded will run the draw callback function, which contains all the code to draw the chart. One thing that I haven't covered previously, but that's very powerful, is that in this function that initially loads the data, in addition to the file we're loading and the callback we run, in this case draw, once all the data is loaded, we can run an intermediate function that can transform or parse our data before our draw function gets called. In this case, this intermediate transformation function that we pass functions in much the same way as the functions we passed to our extents, where the function gets run for every data point in our data file, one at a time. The argument d in this function is simply a single row of our data file, and whatever we return from this function is what actually gets passed to the callback.